You're listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast hosted by Joyce and Christopher Rosen. Welcome back to Awards Magnet. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce and Joyce. We have the BAFTA Award nominations. They're here.
They are. And probably the only major awards announcement we'll be getting this week. So,
yeah, as we're recording this, Joyce, it's recording this right after the BAFTAs on Wednesday. As we know, the California wildfires have really wreaked havoc on California and are much more top of mind, let's say, than award season. But because of the wildfires,
award season is very, very silly compared to the wildfires.
And because of the wildfires, then we have a lot of things have been delayed, including announcements for the PGA Awards, WGA Awards. Oscar nominations are now delayed till next week. Oscar voting happening now.
Extended
until Friday. Obviously, we've been thinking a lot about the California wildfires, Joyce, and a lot of destruction and you know, a real disaster, I would say.
Real life is more important. And I'm sure, you know, a lot of people know someone who knows someone who's been affected. So if you're able to donate, do whatever you can to help, even, you know, just one person, a GoFundMe is totally fine, you know. But yeah, hopefully they're not out of the woods yet, but hopefully soon.
Yeah. So that's the world we're living in as we talk about these BAFTA award nominations, Joyce. So like you said, not the most pressing thing, but what you think of these nominations, Joyce? We're conclave led with 12 and Amelia Perez had 11.
Great day for both. Brutalist got 9. A bunch of movies got 7, including A Complete Unknown. Great day for Complete Unknown. Also great day for Jamie Lee Curtis. BAFTA nominee again, Jamie Lee Curtis. This is her 4th nomination. She's already a BAFTA winner. She won for Trading Places, so.
She's fully in the race now for Last Showgirl. That was one of the things I wrote down. That was one of the notes I have. Jamie Lee Curtis is here for Last Showgirl as a supporting actress nominee.
You know what? She's probably always been here, and no one was paying attention.
I think that's probably true. I have a lot of notes, Joyce, I took on the BAFTA nominations. I guess we want to, like, we're not going to go through every category, I don't think, unless you really want to. But I would say the big headlines I had was Daniel Craig getting snubbed, which is, I think if you would have said to me, even last week, if Daniel Craig is going to make SAG and miss BAFTA, I would have laughed in your face. And now I would be the one who would be laughed at, because that's exactly what happened. He got in at SAG and missed BAFTA when we all expected for months that it would be the opposite.
Pretty sure no one had Daniel Craig making SAG and missing BAFTA, and Clarence Macklin missing SAG and making BAFTA on their bingo cards. So,
just a crazy outcome, especially with BAFTA removing the juries from the nominating process.
I'm actually glad they removed the jury, as much as like I love the chaos of the juries, but I feel like when they had the juries for the past 4 years, every single time it was just like, who are the jury picks, right? And like everyone is overanalyzing that, and now you don't have to think about that, because I feel like now if they had kept the juries for this year and we had this slate of nominees, I think a lot of people would just point to like Clarence and be like, he was definitely a jury pick. You know,
yes.
Now we know he's not a jury pick. He was picked by the entire acting branch.
Yes.
You know?
Now, one of the things I think we talked about with the SAG award, Joyce, and you always say is like at SAG, it's a different ballot, right? So it's just the most appearances on the ballot, and it's not a preferential ballot, right?
Like the Oscars. The Oscars is the only one with preferential. So I was like, looking at this, I was like, oh, Clarence Macklin is a great example, even though I was just mentioning Daniel Craig, but I was like, Clarence Macklin feels like someone who probably wasn't on a lot, obviously, of SAG ballots, but I think the passion for Clarence Macklin and Sing Sing remains very high. It maxed out here at BAFTA, right? It had the 3 long list mentions, and it got all 3 of those nominations: adapted screenplay, supporting actor, and actor. And so I'm like, that bodes well to me for Clarence Macklin at the Oscars, because I think if people see the movie, maybe he's a number 1 or 2 person for them. I think actually what helped someone like Clarence here, and Sing Sing overall, which, you know, has been underperforming for a bit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
And
I think a lot of people probably thought maybe it would just be Coleman here today, just like it was just Coleman last week at SAG, when people thought it would get all three last week, Ensemble and Clarence as well. But I think with here with Clarence, I think what helped him was, and probably some other people too, was the long lists. Like BAFTA, reveals their long lists. And they actually reduced the slots, or the number of long list slots, like from 15 to 10 now, along with limiting the juries. And I feel like that really maybe helped cull the field for people. Like the voters knew, like, oh, I just need to check out these other 3 movies that I haven't seen yet because I've seen these other 7.
Right.
It gives them a number to hit. Whereas like something like all these other places is like they don't have long lists like that. It's just like a free for all. Like you just got to watch these movies, and you're not going to watch all of them, Mm-hmm. But with BAFTA, it's telling you like these are the only 10 people you can vote for.
Right.
So
Clarence gets in, and Daniel Craig, conversely, missing Joyce. I would have never predicted this, obviously, in a million years. I was like, there's no way he's going to miss. I had Sebastian Stan in, obviously. I think we both did, and especially BAFTA has 6 slots, and it does feel like maybe the best actor is 6 guys for, or even 4 guys who are locked in, and then a couple of guys for that last spot. But now I'm like, I'm full steam ahead on Sebastian Stan at the Oscars. To me, I feel like that's a great sign. He got in for The Apprentice here. Not a different man. I feel like the international appeal of The Apprentice.
They couldn't vote for him for a different man. So.
Right. But also I feel like the international appeal for The Apprentice, we've been like kind of expecting and seeing in different ways. It showed on the BAFTA long lists. And then here it gets Sebastian Stan, Jeremy Strong, and casting as a nomination of its 3.
Casting, it got 3 of its 6 long list slots, and casting is still juried. But that's such the casting category is still new for BAFTA,
mm-hmm.
and I still don't really have a handle on it, but it always felt to me like it would get in for casting because, but yeah, with Seb, I think same thing with the long list. It helped, identify the one film that you can only vote for him for. Like there's no chance of him vote splitting with himself here, which may have been the case at other places, right? Maybe even at SAG. He
mm-hmm.
could have both split with himself there. And also like Daniel getting at SAG and missing here, another bullet point for my alphabet bias.
Interesting choice. So, yes. That was a big popular thing. I saw a lot of people email us about that too.
Because it's a real thing. It's a real thing if you've been paying attention. So.
The other thing I was thinking too with Sebastian Stan, what you were saying, like calling the field, and maybe people who are still going to predict Daniel Craig, or maybe don't think Sebastian Stan can make it because he's going to split his own vote, is that like, at the SAG Nomcom, I think there's like 2,300 people voting or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like 2,500.
And so if Daniel Craig appeared on like 1,100 ballots, right, and Sebastian Stan combined appeared on like 1,400, but maybe 900 for Apprentice, and like it's like, oh no, and maybe that'll happen again. But I do believe that like the passion for him in The Apprentice this is maybe my own bias because this is what I feel, but I don't think it's that far off from the consensus. Is that The Apprentice is the one that people are paying attention to. We saw Ed Norton, I think, last week, right? Talking about how much he loved the movie and his performance.
Said both of their performances, Seb and Jeremy's, are off the hook, quote.
Right. And if you're a BAFTA voter and we're expecting international, like if Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong both make it in, I think it will largely because of international support. And you already saw that then here, they're already paying attention to The Apprentice. Maybe that just carries over for the Oscars. I actually think at this point, I'm like, does Sebastian Stan have a better shot of getting in than Jeremy does? Because that does feel like incredibly competitive with like 6 guys for 5 slots, and maybe 7 if you still hang on to hope for Denzel Washington, who is another BAFTA snub, has never been nominated.
But like unsurprising because he's never been nominated.
This year felt like it was not a surprise, but also like that's such a disgrace that he's never been nominated for BAFTA. It's so insulting. I just can't believe it.
I mean, we could do a sidebar on him later, but I think with both Seb and Jeremy, like they're both they are number 1 getters. I think if you give the movie a shot, which I know not everyone is going to, like I know just like regular people who are, hesitant to watch the movie. Right. So I'm sure some, especially American voters, some might be hesitant as well. But obviously it's not the case internationally. And, but, just even with like what, like, Ed Norton said last week to THR, raving about both the performances, unprompted as well. It's like you could see like there's passion for it. And then Ed also echoed what Seb has said and told us too, and how he's been hearing personally from people within the industry, like getting messages from them, or they just come up to him at events saying like how much they love The Apprentice and his performances. There was a video after the Globes backstage. Seb met Colin Farrell, and Colin it was hard to hear, but Colin was basically like, I haven't seen a different man yet, but I love The Apprentice and Jeremy is so great, you know? So I think like there is that feeling within the industry, even though it's not visible to us publicly necessarily.
I feel like that's true too. So I'm like very bullish on both of them getting in, but I do think Seb maybe has a slight, I think I would like slightly put Seb ahead just because of the competitiveness of the category for supporting actor, though I think Jeremy will get into, and actually I'm like supporting actor, I think we'll see like obviously like at least one significant snub there based on like what we're seeing here. Cause again, there's just too many people for the race. And Daniel Craig could still get in, but I just am like, wow, not getting in a BAFTA feels like not a great sign.
It's tough for him because like he like was like queer, just like flatlining basically. And it's already like a weird movie, you know, it's so abstract anyway. Like he was always going to be a lone nominee. He has been a lone nominee at the places he's gotten into. And queer was just completely blanked by BAFTA as well. So like, yeah, I think it'll be like, he would be kind of like name checky, and then it's like almost like inertia, almost like voting for him like absentmindedly. It's like, oh, I've seen him nominated places, I'll just like vote for him, even though I haven't seen the movie or haven't really been paying attention to it or anything. And whereas like with Seb, like he could be a lone nominee, but he has a potential second nomination along with him and Jeremy, you know?
Right. And I do think that, like you said, like, I think Daniel Craig is a passion pick too, because I think if you like that performance, you probably really, really like it. But I think there's probably more of a chance that Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice is. And that doesn't mean he won't end up missing anyway because of a different man being there as well. And maybe, you know, I'm sure there's somebody who like likes a different man more than The Apprentice, clearly. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And I don't know, but I would say also no one has worked harder than Sebastian Stan for this nomination. Not just because he talked to us, Joyce, but he's talked to
everyone. We're not special. So.
Oh my God. I think he's talked to like my local, maybe a local patch outlet, maybe. Who knows? I mean, he has been talking to every single person who would speak to him, and every interview he is being incredibly gracious and kind, and everybody walks away being like, man, I love Sebastian Stan. I think we'd be friends in real life. And it's like, you wouldn't, but he's a great actor and really good at doing this. So, just a great like, campaign.
Yeah. And, you know, like I respect it. Like I respect the hustle, and like he deserves it. Like, you know, obviously like he's been around for a long time, even if like he hasn't always gotten awards recognition for his previous projects. But it feels like, you know, it's all been like leading to this, and like, you know, no one expected for him to, like, not even him expected to have a twofer this season. So, but it's obvious, like, they have a game plan to promote both of them equally, really. And he's also talked about, like, how, it's been tough promoting a different man. You know, like, he could have really, like, just focused on one of them, but he's been doing both and just kind of letting the chips fall where they may. And it's clear that The Apprentice is the stronger film here.
I think so. And I think that'll hopefully, because I want him to get nominated, hopefully that translate over to the Oscars. So we talked about that. Why don't we stick with the actors and continue on to Denzel, Joyce, who is snubbed here?
Well, I mean, like, shout out to Hugh Grant, who made it in here, but is not going to get the Oscar nomination once again. So I just, hopefully, like, someone gives him a really, like, meaty role someday, so he will get that overdue Oscar nomination, because he made, you know, a bunch of precursors again, just like he did for Florence Foster Jenkins. And
right.
I don't think anyone expected for him to get in for Heretic, but, you know, we're still waiting for the Oscar nomination for Hugh Grant.
And another A24 actor contender. Yes. They're just flush with actor contenders. It's crazy. So Joyce, Denzel Washington, another snub.
Still never nominated.
And the funny thing is, like you said there, when we were talking about it before, not a surprise. I actually was like, I think I took him out maybe in the end of my picks. I just was like, I don't think he's going to make it in.
Well, did you do that after he was snubbed last week by SAG?
Yes, I did.
Which is what I think most people did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so we already had the tea leaves from last week. I think most people still had him before SAG last week. Yeah, it's funny because like this category just got really messy really quickly. Because I think everyone had the same top 5 for months, like Kieran and Yura and Denzel and Clarence and Guy Pearce.
Yes.
And then, everyone just kind of dismissed Jeremy at the Globes because it was, they have 6 spots and everything. And then like Denzel had also been doing well. Like he was getting, like regional critics nominations. He won critics awards. He made London Film Critics, which is very highbrow. So, and then it seemed like he would be safe at SAG because it's such a populist guild and he's Denzel Washington. So that like, it's not surprising he missed BAFTA. It was surprising he missed SAG. So that was already a huge red flag last week that he missed. And it's not like he made it SAG for Roman J. Israel Esquire, which was watched by like 2.5 people.
I saw that at Tip Joyce, and then remember it got re-edited. Do you remember this?
They cut out like 12 minutes, and
I never saw it again. Never saw it again.
I mean, I've never seen either version. So, but
I love Dan Gilroy, but never saw it again.
Didn't they move like one of Colin Farrell's scenes? Like,
could be. I don't remember. I'll look at the Wikipedia later, but I never saw it. I
think that's what happened. They like completely like moved a scene from like the beginning to the end, or the end to the beginning, or something.
Great,
but yeah, like he's made it in for stuff like that. So obviously he's never needed BAFTA to get an Oscar nomination. But he has needed SAG, and I've always said that like if he makes SAG, I'll lock him in. And then he didn't, because the only other time he has missed SAG for like an Oscar contender was American Gangster, and he did not make it in at the Oscars.
Man, him and Ridley, not
there's 0 for 2 for Ridley movies. So
it just feels like, to me, it feels like the enthusiasm and interest in Gladiator 2 has kind of fallen off a cliff, right? Like I like that movie. I'm sure people would be like, you guys are so high on it. I still think it's great. I thought it was a great time.
I had a blast watching Gladiator 2.
But clearly the industry is not really kind of rallied around it. And the other thing I think with Denzel is, like, especially with this roster of film contenders, he feels like he's not going to be anybody's favorite based on this list, right? Because we're talking about like Kieran, Yura Borisov obviously has a lot of passion. Guy Pearce, I think, would have a lot of passion. Jeremy Strong, like we just mentioned, and Clarence Macklin, and then Edward Norton. It's like, man, all of these guys have like maybe more passion around them, or their films are stronger than Denzel and Gladiator 2. And that's kind of like, it's a numbers game, and maybe he's like 4 or 5 on ballots, or he will be at the Oscars, or even not even on ballots, and he just doesn't make it in.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a perfect storm of events that conspired for him to fall out of this category, basically. And yeah, like Gladiator 2 was not going to be a Best Picture nominee. He was basically going to be his only above the line nomination, which is feasible, right? Like Angela Bassett just did it, but it always depends on the competition. And for a while it seemed like he was safe, right? But at that time, we were only working with the data we knew and also making assumptions because, especially after the election, it felt like, oh, maybe no one's going to touch The Apprentice, right? Just like completely write off The Apprentice. None of the Conclave supporting guys were popping, right? So it was like, oh, we can forget about them. They're not going to be an issue for Denzel. And he was getting, MVP notices for Gladiator 2 while it was coming out around that time. And A Complete Unknown was a complete unknown at that time,
good.
Right?
I like that. I like that pun. Yes.
Like we knew like Ed Norton was in it, but it's like, will it land or not? Like maybe it'll suck. And, like that has obviously been hitting. Apprentice has been rebounding. And yeah, like it just feels like these things just worked against him. Like, it was nothing like he did. Like, I think Gladiator has always been weak, and I think it's different being, he was going to be a filler nominee here.
Right.
And it's different being a filler nominee and supporting than it is in lead, because in supporting, the strength of your film does matter. Like, he's up against a bunch of films or a bunch of people who are in probable Best Picture nominees.
Correct.
You know, and like, this was going to be his like Meryl Into the Woods nomination, right? But if you look at the field from that year in supporting actress, like the fifth spot was completely open, right? And then it was filled by Laura Dern, you know? So she was safe. So if he had a similar field like that, I think he would be fine right now.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, is that the field is just too competitive, and like even with and there's too much, and then there's passion around like the guys who are going to be like like Jeremy Strong is not going to get, Apprentice is not getting a Best Picture nomination, but there's obviously a lot more passion for, I think, Jeremy on an individual basis than there is for this Denzel performance, and it would be like a filler nom, like you said. And I don't know, I will not have, I think I took him out of the Oscars after SAG, and this was like, this is just confirmation that I don't feel bad about it.
He needs SAG, and he didn't get SAG, so I was like, I'm sorry, bye.
And those are all great. And then actresses, Joyce. So Best Actress, I'd say in my headlines of the Best Actress field here, where Fernanda Torres is not shortlisted, or longlisted, excuse me, so was not nominated, is that I think this is a Good Night the Lights for Nicole Kidman's Best Actress hopes, because she missed here, which was unexpected, based on the odds. And Marianne Jean-Baptiste and Fernanda Torres maybe both making it at the Oscars, but then who are you dropping from the Oscars field to get them both in?
So I think the BAFTA nominees, so you have the top four, you have Marianne, and then Saoirse Ronan for the Outrun. So glad Saoirse got something.
Very nice. That really made me happy. Yeah, it did.
Happy for her.
Remember when she was going to be a double nominee, Joyce? Those are the days.
I wouldn't say we were so young, because I never predicted her for double nominations, but people were so young back then.
Yes.
So, but I think this lineup kind of clarified the top 7 here. So you have the top 4. And then I think the other 3 fighting for that last spot are Marianne, Fernanda, and Pamela Anderson. So
Pam got in at the SAG Awards.
And the Globes.
And the Gotham Awards. Not that that matters, but sure.
She was not longlisted here. But who knows? Maybe she was top 13 and the jury just didn't select her.
Correct.
She was between 8 and 13. Maybe she wasn't selected.
The top 7 are in based on votes, and then there is a jury selecting from 8 to 13 for the final 3 spots at BAFTA for the long lists.
Yeah.
So she could have been on that group and then not been selected.
Yeah, especially, that Jamie Lee Curtis made the long list and got the nomination too.
Correct. So if you were going to bet between these 3, and then, or do you think, so we've talked about this, I guess we talked about this a lot. For the top 4, maybe the most vulnerable, I guess, is Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, although I would say this was not a great day for the Substance Hive. It had 11 long list mentions. It only got 5 nominations and missed Margaret Qualley here and at SAG. We'll talk about Best Supporting Actress in a minute. But I was like, Substance not showing a ton of strength here, which I'm sure will get people yelling at me in the comments, Joyce, obviously, because they're saying something negative about the Substance. But I was just like, I think when it got the 11 longlist mentions, people had visions of a Best Film nomination in their head for this film, and it didn't make it into that list. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think Demi would miss, but I'm like, would you say one of those top 4 misses, and then who of the other 2 of the 3 get in? It's very competitive. We know there's going to be humongous snubs here, but like, what do you think?
Well, I think back when everyone was saying, I mean, yes, there'll be humongous snubs, but back when everyone was saying there will be humongous snubs, it was referencing like Angelina Jolie and Nicole Kidman, both of whom I think are just out.
Now they're out. Right. So now they're both out, but now we can still have humongous snubs for like Cynthia, Demi. I don't know.
So, I mean, with you're so like frantic, you're so reactive to things that just happened.
Yes. Of course.
But I think like Demi like secured her nomination with her Globes win and speech.
To be clear, I'm not going to ever drop Demi, and I think she could win this Oscar. But I'm just saying, like,
this Substance did not do as well as maybe you thought today.
And that, you know me, I've always been realistic with The Substance.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And I think it performed to my expectations. Like, it's a body horror film.
Right.
So, and then we discussed last week too, how, because Margaret Qualley missed SAG too, and also, Coralie Forjat missed a DGA. And how, and it's been inconsistent at the Guild. So maybe it's less popular domestically than it is internationally based on the 11 long lists mentioned by BAFTA, but now it just converted 5 of them into actual nominations. So I feel like that's probably like it could get those same 5 Oscar nominations. I think that's a great day for The Substance.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
I mean,
like I think I have it in Best Picture, but I've always felt that it was a bottom 5 Best Picture.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know how, like, even sight unseen, how you could have it above something as middlebrow as A Complete Unknown.
I mean, I think Complete Unknown is like top 5 for Best Picture. We discussed
this last week after DGA. I'm like, that's top 5, you know?
Yeah.
And I honestly think James Mangold would have made director here had BAFTA not had the gender parity split, because he was probably the 6th man of the directing non-long listed, you know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean. Because the director, do you want to explain that quickly for
because they have to have gender. They need to, for the directing long list, they need to have like 5 men and 5 women. And then if a director is non-binary, then it's they add an 11th person. Or
if it's a duo, a male-female directing pair, they add another slot.
So I feel like James Mangold, based on how well A Complete Unknown did, James Mangold was probably the 6th man.
Yes.
So
100%.
But yeah, like The Substance, I think, you know, it's just been kind of inconsistent. And I know a lot of people, we had like an email a couple weeks ago. I'm asking if it could be like the next Black Swan, because that underperformed at the Oscars. But I think that the main difference there was that Black Swan had higher expectations, and it got like a whole bunch more of Critics' Choice and BAFTA nominations. I think it got 12 BAFTA nominations. So The Substance, I think it's good for it that it has not reached those heights anywhere else, because I feel like that'll be a lot of the talk, like it's underperforming. It's just been it's inconsistent in where it's popping, but it's consistent in how it's performing, basically, just kind of middle of the road. But I think for Best Actress, like Demi is fine, because she had the Globe win and the speech.
Yes.
And like, I think the top 4 are like safe-ish. Like, I think the other thing is like, if I want to drop one of the top 4, I still have the issue of like, who of the other 2 of the 3 am I going to put in?
Right.
You know? So I haven't touched Best Actress at the Oscars personally, because, you know, I don't touch anything at all.
Right.
So I still have Marianne, and she made it Here Now. So like, I'm like, I could just keep her.
So I had, after the Globes, I put Fernanda Torres in, obviously, and I think she's top 5 in the odds now. So the top 5 are the top 4, which we're talking about Mikey Madison, who was nominee here. Nora did, I think, exceedingly well here with the BAFTA Awards. I think it had 7 nominations, right? Plus the Rising Star nomination. So that would be 8, but whatever.
I think it had 9.
Oh, it had 9?
Yeah.
No, it had.
Was it?
I thought it had 9 long list mentions, and I think it had 7 nominations.
Yeah. It's 9 long list. Yeah.
So Mikey doing great here. Carlos Sofia Gascon obviously feels like secure for nomination. It would be pretty shocking if she was not nominated. And Cynthia Erivo, I think a lot of people would be like, we've talked about, is she going to be like Margot Robbie for Barbie and Missing? And I don't know. We'll see. And then that last spot, but I'm like, maybe I'm like probably emboldened by this nomination. And then also the fact that Marianne Jean-Baptiste was everywhere last week here in New York, at least. She was at every event, and I know a lot of fans rallying around her, including like, you know, Barry Jenkins, like all these people who were very excited to see her. I heard from a rep, Joyce, that they had Iowa Debris, Mark Ruffalo, Marissa Tomei, Steve Buscemi, John Turturro, all these great people coming out to support Marianne Jean-Baptiste and Mike Lee. So I'm like, I put her in. That's the long story short, is I put her in. I don't know if she'll make it in. I think Pamela Anderson could get in too, though, because like you said, she wouldn't be alone. She's probably not a lone nominee, because Jamie Lee Curtis feels like very secure in her spot right now. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do with these three potential upstart actress nominees.
I think it's like all, in a way, like all three of them are kind of peaking at the right time because their films are opening, so they've been promoting just generally the film, right? And then obviously Fernanda has the Globe win, so that's like the win in her sales. But
now, missed the long list, but maybe what you like we're saying could have been in that 8 to 13 range and wasn't a jury save, but that also doesn't seem likely. Do you like, what do you like, or maybe just was not widely seen at the time?
It might not be widely seen, yeah.
But I feel like if she was on the long list, do you think she would have gotten nominated? Like, if Pamela Anderson, like, here's the question: like, if Pamela Anderson and Fernanda Torres were represented on the long list for BAFTA, would they have been gotten nominated here? I mean, we'll never know. But like, where do you?
I don't think so. Like, with like Saoirse getting in too, especially with like the whole branch voting, like the Outrun did well overseas. You know, I mean, not like exceedingly well, but it did better than it did here. Yeah. And it also got, I think, 9 British Independent Film Awards. So that was a signal that she could get in here too. So like Saoirse probably had more runway to build a momentum than Pam or Fernanda. I don't know, but yeah, I think if you lock in the top 4, it's probably one of those other 3 for
and then if you were going to put 2 of those 4, like the safe thing to do is just predict the top 4 and pick the best of the other 3 and hope you get 4 out of 5. But if you're going to pick 2 of the 3, like underdog, like knocking on the door contenders, then who are you going to drop of the 4?
Well, that's what I was saying before. Like, you have to drop someone, and then you have to pick someone else from the other 3.
Right. I mean, I don't think you could go wrong with, like, Fernanda and Marianne Jean-Baptiste as your 2 ahead of Pamela Anderson, even though Pamela Anderson has the SAG nomination. So, like, that maybe speaks more broadly of her potential appeal and support. I don't know. It's very complicated. I also don't know who I would drop. I mean, obviously, I think people would just say, like, oh, Cynthia Erivo, right? Because, like, whatever, but I just don't believe that. I just think you walk out of that movie and you're like on a high from her last scene, and that matters more than like we saw with Barbie, where I don't think Margot Robbie had that significant moment in comparison to that. So I don't know, but I mean, I don't know who else it could be of that 4 who misses.
I also wonder if we're just all kind of putting way too much stock into Fernando's Globe win, just because it's so rare for the Globe drama winner not to get the Oscar nomination, right? And then the 2 times it's happened, it's been asterisked. You know, it was a 3-way tie with Shirley MacLaine, and then Kate Winslet replaced herself. So.
I mean, for me, I'm putting a lot of stock in that only because it's Sony Pictures Classics, right? Like, that is behind her campaign. So, like, that Globe's win in the history plus Sony Pictures Classics makes me think that she would have an edge to get that 5th slot. But also, Marianne Jean-Baptiste has not really missed anywhere she was supposed. I mean, like, the Globes notwithstanding, like, and that could have been another.
And she's the highbrow critics pick, right? You know, she's swept the trifecta.
Right, she swept the trifecta. Right.
She's like a Charlotte Rampling. You know, she's exactly the type of like critics fave who would get the Oscar nomination,
and has worked with a lot of people and was like on like a CBS procedural. You know what I mean? Like, it's like she is not.
It's called Without a Trace.
I know what it's called, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it's not like it would be a total like she's not like some. It's not like she's some elitist international actress. Not saying that anybody is, but I'm not like, for her, it's like she also has a lot of people in the industry who have worked with her. You know what I mean? Like that. She's
kind of thing. She's a former nominee as well.
Yes.
So
I feel like she maybe has the edge over Fernanda and Pam Anderson, but we'll see. Maybe there's a miss there. I don't know. And then supporting actress, I'm just resigned, Joyce, to 2 out of 5 because I know that Zoe Saldana and Ariana Grande will get nominated. And then after that, it feels like a complete 52 pickup. Jamie Lee Curtis, presumably, and then 2 other people, but I'm not sure who they will be and how it will shake out.
This is, as I've said before, this is my favorite category.
It's the best. So good.
Ariana and Zoe are the only ones who hit all 4 televised precursors.
Yes.
So they're in. And
they
then, yeah, you know, have fun.
So here's what I was trying to figure out. Like, we kind of thought, like, this reminds me a little bit of Best Actress from 2 years ago, where you had Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh were obviously the top two, and everyone was going to have them top two on their ballot. So then you're really pushing for, like, number 3 votes, or, like, you know, like the smidge of number 1 votes, or whatever, get the highest on the ballot you can beyond those two, because they're locked in. And so when you have a situation like that year we saw, it was Anna de Armas, right? And Andrea Riseborough getting in, as well, as a shocker. So I'm like, who is, like, this race reminds me a little of that. So I'm like, in terms of passion, like, I actually thought, I they're going to laugh at me, but I really thought Adriana Paz would be getting in here at BAFTA and maybe could still get an Oscar nomination, just because I think that, like, if people love Amelia Perez, they might actually have her even over Selena Gomez. Now, that's maybe insane because Selena Gomez got in here. But that's what I was thinking. Like, we might see some kind of absolutely bananas, like, upset nomination here, because I don't believe, like, Margot Qualley, I think missing SAG and missing here is really detrimental to her hopes as an Oscar nominee. I think Felicity Jones is actually in pretty good shape here, even though she missed at SAG. I feel like Isabella Rossellini is, like, hit and miss, right? Like, she got in here, but missed SAG, where it seemed like she would be, and, like, just getting in on name recognition alone. But, like, maybe
I never thought that. Like, I never had her in at SAG.
And then you have, like, Daniel Deadwyler, or, you know, I don't know. So I don't know where I'm going to go with this category, but I kind of think Jamie Lee Curtis is maybe the third most secure, just based on what we've seen in the last 7 days. And like you said, maybe she was there the whole time because she's Jamie Lee Curtis.
I would say you could say she's number 3 because she hit both industry precursors.
Correct.
So she has those too. So it's like, who cares about everything else? Because, you know, critics awards are nice, Globes are nice, but they're not the industry. And the actual people who are voting for the Oscars, you know.
And not to besmirch the critics' choice, which we love critics here. But I gotta say, if the Critics' Choice Award nominations were now, I think Jamie Lee Curtis would be a nominee there.
Replacing who? Ingenue Ellis Taylor?
Probably. Like, I don't know. I just think that if it was later,
maybe they'll do like a write-in ballot win whenever they're going to air next month.
I just feel like if the like we said, like, the momentum is the right time, and nobody was really even thinking about her for this movie. But I think now, if you did a revote, maybe she would make it in, because I think more people have seen it, obviously, and she's an Oscar contender. So
I think, like, I never had Felicity or Isabella making it at SAG, but I had them at BAFTA. They got in. So I think they can ride out, like, the strength of their movies too.
Yes.
So that helps them. And same thing with Selena as well. Because obviously Amelia Perez, very strong. And then she could coattail off of Zoe's impending win as well. I kind of feel like it's between her and Jamie for the 5th spot, if you assume, like, Felicity and Isabella are in. I don't know, yeah, because, like, Selena's obviously also been inconsistent as well, with non-industry groups, many of whom just don't like Amelia Perez, but we know the industry loves Amelia Perez.
I'm more like, I'm not, like, concerned about, like, no one in the non-industry people, which is the viewing public, Joyce, does not like this movie. Its letterbox scores are absolutely destroyed, right? Like, people don't like it, but, like, the industry
love to review bomb.
Like, but the industry loves it, and so I don't really care about, like, what actual, no disrespect to anybody's opinion, but I'm like, it doesn't really mean anything in terms of how it will perform. But the issue with Selena Gomez, I think, is, like, we've seen in the industry, she's really not been, like, she's never had an individual SAG nomination, even as Only Murders has been, incredibly strong. She only just got her acting Emmy nomination this year, right? Like, it's like the industry doesn't really seemingly respect her as an actress, rightly or wrongly. That seems to be the sense. So, like, this nomination here is great, but I'm wondering if that will carry through the whole time. That's kind of why I was like, Adriana Paz maybe could get in, because I feel like she is, like, more considered as an actress than Selena Gomez, and maybe her performance and her character is less fraught than Selena Gomez is in the film. But I'm probably not gonna go that far to predict it. So I think it's, like, within the conversation, but that's why I'm like, maybe here, since the Oscars, Joyce, as we know, are a local award show, maybe Jamie Lee Curtis has the edge, because we've seen in the industry, she is more widely respected over the last couple of years than Selena Gomez, even though the film will be much stronger.
I don't think, even if Selena misses, I don't think like her actual career would have anything to do with it. Cause like people were making that same argument against Ariana Grande, like she's a pop star who has, fewer, especially recent acting credits than Selena has, right? It's like, oh, they're not going to take her seriously. And like, she's one of the locks here. I think that Selena, like she missed SAG to where it felt like she should get in. But I think it just shows like she and Zoe are not, they never solidified themselves as like the duo from the film, like the double nominees from a film that, we've seen a lot, especially in this category. So I think that's what's hurting her more. Because especially when there's been double nominees where one person is going to be the winner, right? Like the other person just tags along and almost like mindlessly, even if they're deserving and is a good performance. So I kind of feel like she's a little left behind in that sense. But I think more troubling for her and also for Jamie is a complete unknown. Like peaking. Monica Barbaro got SAG. Mm-hmm. So I think if the movie continues to peak, like she could overtake both of them.
And so that's a great point.
She's also someone else who could have not been a jury pick for the long list, right?
So here's another thing too, is in terms of like how the preferential ballot for the Oscars would work. Like, I think if you have Zoe and Ariana 1, 2, like, I don't think Selena Gomez would be 3 for a lot of people. I think she would be, and I think Monica Barbaro could even be a 1. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of passion for that performance. That was like the headliner when people first saw the movie, was how she kind of blew people off the screen as Joan Baez. And I don't know, I think she maybe would have a leg up there too. And we already know or assume that A Complete Unknown is incredibly strong as well. Not as strong as Amelia Perez, but feels like a top 5 movie. And so maybe she does get in, even though she wasn't longlisted and not nominated for BAFTA.
Yeah, and God bless MBR winner Elle Fanning. I know people have like suggested like they could vote split, but I feel like most people prefer Monica in that film.
So I kind of feel like, and with the rest of the category, I like Felicity Jones. I feel like is, even though she missed it SAG, like you said, not really unexpected, and would have been like a great show of strength, I think, for her in the movie if she actually got in there. But totally fine that she missed there and got in here. And I feel like, yeah, she'll probably get in. But do you think Isabella Rossellini is actually maybe also going to miss then? And then there's room for like Selena Gomez or Jamie Lee Curtis and Monica Barbaro.
I think Isabella is probably fine. Like she has a strong movie. And if you like don't count like Jamie Lee Curtis, like she's like the elder stateswoman. She's kind of like Annette Bening in a way,
Mm-hmm.
And she's been campaigning. The other day she grammed a poster of all of her critics' wins and nominations.
I saw it.
And then the next day, or even, no, not the same day, but like hours later, she posted that AI image of the burnt Oscar. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I guess I would be, in terms of that, I was just like, I guess if she misses, it would be because she's not going to be like top 3 for anybody on their ballot, right? And maybe...
I don't think that's true, because I think, like, I think it's hard for people to understand that despite her brief screen time and the fact that her big moment is just her sharing information the audience already knows, like, people do respond to that performance, right? Like,
it got applause.
I personally have not witnessed applause for that scene, but I've heard tell of other screenings, like real public screenings where people cheer when that moment happens, so I think she is number 1 or 2 for some people.
And also, like you said, like Jamie Lee Curtis notwithstanding, because she's also not even being ageist, like an elder a veteran person in this industry, right? And like obviously also like a fellow Nepo baby as well. But I just feel like Isabel, like you said, like she has that Annette Bening thing where it's like she's like slightly different than the other contenders.
She has a different base of supporters.
Block, right?
Yeah.
Exactly right. So I think she'll probably make it in. And then, yeah, we'll see. Joyce, why don't we take a quick break, and then, even though we've been going for a while, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and just wrap up our BAFTA conversation here. And we're back, Joyce. What a break. It was so quick. Best director, Joyce, and best film. We didn't barely even touched on these, but best, which is hilarious. But I just felt like nothing really was surprising with best film. You have Anora, Conclave, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, and Emilia Perez makes the best film list out of 5. The misses there were The Substance, which was in the top 5 in the odds, at least last I checked. So it could have obviously fallen out. I had dropped The Substance for A Complete Unknown. I wonder if others did too. And then obviously Wicked, I saw it was a snub, but I was like not really expecting Wicked to make it in here based on, because it only has 5 spots.
Yeah, and also they didn't do Barbie last year, so why would you think Wicked would make it?
And really, because the reason we're ending with Best Picture, not to bury the lead here, or Best Film for BAFTA, is just because like none of these are not going to get in Best Picture nomination. We don't know what the PGA list is, but I'm like, those movies are all like pretty, to me, secure for Best Picture nominations, even the movies that were snubbed, The Substance and Wicked here. So like, I just feel like we have 10 slots for Best Picture. I think today was a great sign that Sing Sing is still very competitive for Best Picture, and that A Real Pain, I think, is also very competitive because it got the screenplay nomination and obviously Kieran's nomination. And while it was soft on the long lists, I think that shows that, like, you know, I think it could have that kind of, it could be sticky enough to stay in the race. So I have them both still getting in now, for Best Picture.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, the BAFTA Best Picture nominees don't really tell us anything except that if you were underestimating A Complete Unknown, then you should probably put it in your top 5.
Yeah.
Like BAFTA has given a boost to Sing Sing because it went 3 for 3 in its categories here. So theoretically, it's still alive for Best Picture. We don't know PJ nominees yet. I do wonder, like, how we would be looking at this. Like, if Sing Sing had missed PJ and, it did well here at BAFTA.
If Sing Sing misses PGA, I guess we'll someday find that out, Joyce, obviously, because they delayed the announcement indefinitely. I guess I would be pretty surprised and maybe less bullish on it, but I just believe, like, the thing with Sing Sing, like we kept saying, and I've said this, and like people who have been like down on the movie, and it's not even my favorite movie. I know it's not yours either, but I feel like the people who love this movie, it's their favorite movie. And I think that if there's enough of those people, it will get in for Best Picture because it'll be number 1 on their ballots. You know what I mean? And like, so that could still happen. Like, and BAFTA shows that I think it could still happen. So like, even though it missed its SAG, maybe that's a visibility issue more than anything else.
It's definitely a visibility issue because there's like absolutely no reason it should have missed at SAG. Right. Like, that's such a SAG movie. But yeah, I don't think it's like BAFTA really clarified like the bottom tier of Best Picture here. If that's what you were looking for, really. And then director, it has 6, and it's, I think I think most people would just drop Denis. So it was Jacques Audiard, Sean Baker, Edward Berger, Brady Corbet, Curly Frachaud, and Denis Villeneuve.
Yes.
So
the miss for me here was Pyle Capadia, who I thought was a real dark horse contender for nomination here.
Not a great day for
real tough. Tough. I thought it could get in for picture, director, and original screenplay at the Oscars, and now I'm like, I don't think it's going to get maybe any of those at the Oscars. We'll see, I guess.
I think it could still get original because, I don't think Kneecap is going to get original screenplay at the Oscars. So,
but I was thinking this. So the original screenplays. But do you think so? Like, yeah, you mentioned like it was Anora, right? The Brutalist. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head because I don't have it in front of me because I don't want to waste
original
the bandwidth choice. Yes,
it's Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, The Substance, and Kneecap.
So if Kneecap drops out, Kneecap had 6 nominations, a great showing for a debut film at BAFTA. If Kneecap drops out, I assume it would be All We Imagine Is Light as the 5th nominee, or does Hard Truths make it in, right? If Marianne Jean-Baptiste, she's not, I don't think they're connected, but is it possible that Mike Leigh gets a nomination here too? Probably, maybe.
Would love to see it, so.
And so, like, maybe that's a stronger movie than All We Imagine Is Light at this point. Who knows? But I just felt like that was a bad sign. And then one of the things I was thinking of with director Joyce, so you mentioned, like, the top 5 and the odds are all here, right? And like you said, most people just dropped Denis Villeneuve for Dune because they had 6 spots at BAFTA. And you'll end up with the top 5 at the Oscars. And the DGA 5, you drop Mangold and add Coralie Farjat. But is it possible that Berger drops and Mangold stays? This is what I've been thinking. Conclave obviously is a top film as well. It had led all nominations. They love Edward Berger at BAFTA though, because he had 14 nominations for All Quiet 2 years ago, 12 now for Conclave. But I'm like, is Edward Berger actually safe as among those 4 directing guys in the top 4?
I mean, why not? Why can't Coralie miss and James get in?
So then they would just copy paste over.
People don't want that to happen. People don't want that to happen.
That could very easily happen, right? Like, and you just copy paste over.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wondered if Mangold actually higher than Berger because of the strength of the movie. But obviously, Conclave is strong too.
Like their placements don't matter, like because like if they're top 5, they'll get in. So
right.
But it's I think like obviously everyone is just dropping Mangold from DGA. But yeah, if it continues, if the movie continues to peak, like, I don't know, it could, like, its momentum could wane in phase 2 or even the next couple of days with voting. I don't know. But, and we don't know how the fires are affecting voting.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be a lower turnout. They probably can't, brag about highest turnout ever, even though they never give exact figures for how it's the highest turnout every year. But, I think with like Edward Berger, if this like everyone doubting him kind of reminds me of Belfast and Kenneth Branagh. When everyone is just looking for a reason not to predict him because the Conclave is not most people's favorite movies, especially not like it's a movie that film Twitter likes and likes to make memes of and everything and participate in and engage with, but no one is like, you need to give this movie 1 billion Oscars.
100% right. I guess I'm just thinking at it like we had Alex email. I don't know if we read this email, but I read it. Alex, one of our great emailers, Joyce, us at slugfest@goldover.com, compared it to The Holdovers. I think we talked about this at the very least. And then obviously Alexander Payne missed director. And I'm like, I was like with Berger, I'm just like, the reason I think the placement matters is because I think he's like 4 or 5 for most people. And even though that branch is clubby and small, like I still think he would be 4 or 5 for most people. Whereas Mangold, even though he's got this major populist movie, I think is like an old pro director who has got obviously great respect among other directors. And not that Berger doesn't, but maybe that places Mangold slightly higher. I mean, it's possible they both get in, like you said, in the DGA 5, just copy pastes. But I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Berger missed, but I don't know. I kind of really want to put Mangold in my Oscar picks, but I don't want to do the DGA 5, so I'm trying to figure out how to do this, basically.
I mean, it's... Yeah, because, I don't think... if you're saying you don't see, Edward Berger getting a lot of number ones, I don't know if, James will pull the number ones either, because it is such a middle-brow movie, right? And that branch is so clubby and esoteric and idiosyncratic, right? They are snobs. Yeah, no, they are. I guess I'm not saying number ones, but what about, 2s and 3? You know what I mean? I think the thing that Complete Unknown, I guess, has, and that Mangold has going for him with that group, and this is all just, nonsense speculation, but based on just how the movie has performed, and I think the way the review, the critics have kind of responded to, and obviously you've seen the industry really likes it as well, is that it's a music biopic that everyone feels is slightly elevated because of the way it's done, even if it's just a basic, you know what I mean? If it's not I feel like this is the music biopic that people who don't like music biopics are able to say what's cool? Complete Unknown. That's a real good music biopic. And that maybe helps Mangold get a leg up. So he's not a number 1 getter. Maybe he's a 2 or 3, and Berger is maybe a 4. I don't know. I'm just saying maybe they all get in and Coralie Farjat missed, and then everybody's going to be mad about that online. But I think the thing with both A Complete Unknown and Conclave is that neither is necessarily seen as a director's movie, right? But I think there are more like striking compositions within Conclave where you could make that case and that could give like Edward Berger an edge. Because if you talk about A Complete Unknown, everyone is usually just talking about the performances, the musical performances especially. You know, it's not a lot of commentary on. So it would feel like James Mangold would coattail off of the strength of his own movie if he were to get it.
Maybe you're right. Anything else here, Joyce, in terms of what made it in before we wrap up?
Nickel Boys made a screenplay too. That's good for it.
Good for it to get in for screenplay. Yep.
Yeah.
It missed. I think it wasn't on the long list for cinematography, so that's why it missed there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for that. Brutalist, like we said, did really well. I think solid. Nothing really stood out to me, like in terms of.
Oh, A Complete Unknown was sound, which is funny.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess that's it. So those are the BAFTA award nominations, Joyce. Great stuff. Email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. We're not going to do a mailbag this week because we're going to be back, Joyce, later this week with our final Oscar predictions as voting closes.
Yeah, we're going to record that Friday and then
post over the weekend.
Yes.
Can't wait.
The long weekend.
Cannot wait.
How many changes are going to make between? I know you already made changes now.
I was already trying to make them on my phone through the app, and then I was having trouble with my phone. So I was like, I'm going to do it on the site. I'm already going to make a lot of things. I think you probably could guess like some of them that I'm already trying to figure out how to do. And be like a total idiot. I know you already
have Jamie Lee Curtis in.
I didn't have her in until today, and I don't really want to put her in.
I know.
And now I'll decide whether I want to keep her in, I guess. I'm also like with Best Picture, I kind of feel like, I don't know. Best Picture feels to me like there's the 8 movies and then trying to figure out 9, 10.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like today helped me figure out what I want there, which would be Sing Sing and A Real Pain. Maybe you have it higher, or maybe The Substance is 8 for you or 9 for you. But
no, I have Dune at 8. I've told you before. I have Dune at 8.
Dune, I think, is safe too. So I guess we'll see. All right, Joyce. So we'll be back then. Talk to you then. Bye. Thanks for listening to Awards Magnet. The show is produced by Aaron Greenwald. Our logo is designed by Chelsea Sikora. To be part of the show, email us at slugfests@goldderby.com and follow us on social media @goldderby.